Good afternoon. A very happy new year to you all, and welcome to our first webinar in our 2026 summer series. I was reflecting this morning that we had Michael Donoghue last year at Summer Series talking about AI. And he said, at the end of this year, we'll all be using AI agents. And it sounded weird and foreign, and turns out we are. So this is the place where you come to hear what are the trends, what's going to be happening in the year, and what a great person to kick off the year for us in Keith Abraham. Let me introduce Keith to you. He's a global authority on goal achievement and the creator of the Goal Driver Formula, which is a practical framework that helps individuals and teams understand what truly energizes them and then can turn that insight into meaningful results. With more than 28 years experience speaking to over 500 organisations across 43 countries, Keith is a multiple award-winning speaker, a best-selling author published in 12 languages, and a recognised expert on goal alignment, focus and performance. So today, Keith is going to explore how aligning goals, mindset and focus creates what he calls unstoppable velocity. And what a great way to kick off the Vistage year. Keith Abraham, welcome, and thank you so much for today's session. So a couple of things. Let me preempt. Someone will ask soon, will this session be recorded? And the answer is yes, it will be recorded and available. And the second one is that Keith has a handout that can help you go through the session, and I can see that Sandy Haythorne has just popped that in the chat. And then the other thing for you to know is that pop any questions in the chat as you go. Keith is going to monitor the chat and is very happy to answer questions along the way. So with all of that, Keith, welcome to Vistage, welcome to our summer series, and over to you.
Yeah, thanks very much. Definitely appreciate the opportunity, and Happy New Year to everybody. Wow, can you believe it's 2026 and it's all happening around the place. So wanted to say thanks for the opportunity to be part of this event going through. I want to really kick a few things off here, and I think the hardest thing you have to do today is think, write, and jump in the chat box. And if you want to take some notes, definitely download the handout. It'll walk you through. And because this is being recorded, most of the slides that I'll go through will have numbers that relate to the handout going through. But if not, pen and paper does the trick. Even if you want to write on your iPad or something like that, you're most welcome to do that. So just checking there, making sure that I'm full screen for everybody as well. If that's all good, Stephanie, Sandy, if I'm still full screen for everybody.
Full screen, Keith, we're good.
Good, wonderful. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, what's important, what matters, and what's going to make a difference to you. Here's what I do know, is that from all the people that I've spoken to over the last, now approaching 30 years as a professional speaker, I've spoken to 1.7 million people in 43 different countries. The one thing I can share with you is that people basically fit into 4 categories. 3% of people go and make things happen, 10% of people think or expect things to happen, 60% of people just watch things happen, and 27% of people don't know what happened. And so you want to be in that 3%. And I'm glad the conversation was brought up before about AI. One of the things that I wrote about late last year is this concept here. And it's pretty simple. Here's what I believe. The real competitive advantage for most people moving forward is it's AI plus AI. And what do we mean by that? Well, it's artificial intelligence plus authentic individuals. The real competitive advantage, the thing that will give you speed, and I want to talk about unstoppable velocity, and I also want to preference this by saying I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, in AI. But I do know that the businesses that will thrive and that will be ahead of the competition will be people who apply AI plus AI. Artificial intelligence gives you the ability to save money, make money, help your people become more productive. But authentic individuals, authentic leaders will give you that ability to be able to go, to be able to connect, to use their intuition, to use their gut feel, and to use their experience to best serve their marketplace. But what underpins all of this is making sure you've got a goal. I had a conversation with a venture capitalist here in Australia, and they said, look, everyone's talking about AI, Keith, but really about 95% of people are not doing anything about it. I mean, 100% of people are talking about it, but about 95% of people are not doing too much about it. In actual fact, I did a program for an organisation that just works with CEOs. And I said, I think about 95% of CEOs haven't plugged anything into even ChatGPT yet. And they said, that's probably an overstatement, Keith. I don't think that would be the case for Vistage members because, you're really getting this information around, on a monthly basis and a continuous basis from your chairs and from your organisation. And hence that helps you become a little bit ahead of the curve. So when you put all this together, when we start talking about how you get crystal clear on the goals, what I want to work you through and really spend some time with you today, and let me put this on full screen for you. I want to get you to really understand what it is and what it really will make a difference to you, because here's what we do know. There are two ways to achieve a goal. Faster, easier, and sooner. This has been the one question that's driven me. That's why I've written the book called Unstoppable Velocity. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. Because when I started looking to people and talking to them about goal achievement, not just goal setting, the one thing that really stood out was that lots of people set goals, but few people achieve them. And if they do achieve them, it's almost slower, harder, and never. So the question I said was, how do we speed it up? How do we get people to achieve their goals faster, easier, and sooner? And there's a couple of things here. If we look at these, and let me just put this on full screen for you. If we look at these couple of key things here, is that, what's unstoppable really mean? Well, you've got to have purpose. You need to have drive. And you need to have the courage to do something different. You need to have courage to change. And the second is, when we talk about velocity, and this is where we'll spend most of the time, when we talk about velocity, we're talking about speed, we're talking about direction, and we're talking about focus. And so when you combine these three, the three key elements to help you achieve unstoppable velocity is making sure you know what drives you, you know what your desire to achieve, and you have the determination to actually achieve it. Makes sense so far? And so the one place I wanted to start, before we ever set goals, before we ever take that moment to set the goal, we really should stop and have a bit of a reflection. And I trust you've had a great festive season and had a wonderful break over this summer. But there's 4 questions I want to ask you. And if you're following along in your handout, and if you're not, it's okay. Let me put the questions up on full screen. The 4 questions, the first question I want to ask you is really around, I want you to write down one thing that you achieved in 2025. And it could be something personal, it could be something professional. If you can't think of anything, you're being too hard on yourself. And if you've got 6 or 7 things written down, you're totally up yourself. So let's just balance that out and write down one thing. The second thing is I want you to write down what's one thing you wished you had achieved in 2025. The third is I want you to write down what was the one thing that you learned about yourself as a leader or as a person. And the fourth thing I want you to write down is what gave you the greatest amount of joy in 2025. So if you can write, they can just be one-word answers, they can be a sentence, but what's one thing you achieved? What's one thing you wish you had achieved? Not to live with regret or anything like that or guilt. What's one thing you learned about yourself? And what's one thing that gave you the greatest amount of joy? And once you've written that down, would you like to jump in the chat box for me if you'd be so kind? Would you like to jump in the chat box for me and actually share with me what it is that has been the one key element for you? What's been that one element? And in actual fact, let's do it this way. I want you to write down, what's the one thing you learned about yourself? And what's the one thing that's given you the greatest amount of joy? If you'd like to share that with me as well. Anybody in the chat box there? What's the one thing you learned about yourself as a leader or in business this year? And if you can jot that in the chat, that'd be great. I'll give you a moment to do that. Wonderful. I love it. Andrew, thank you. Learned resilience. Okay, here we go. I've got a few here. Resilience and humility. Joy. My kids. I love that, Andrew. Thanks for sharing. Glenda, adaptable. Yeah, you have to be adaptable in this place that we live in. Andrew, let go more. You know, Andrew, let me share a little mantra I have that I meditate on daily. Release, allow, surrender. Release the things that that are just not serving me. Allow the things to come into my life that will accelerate me, and surrender to the things that, no longer, I need to do. What else, Gavin, for you? Importance of impact, importance and an impact of alignment. Yeah, alignment is going to be one of those things that is going to be more and more relevant this year. What I learned about myself as a leader, this is Alex. I want my peers, staff and boss to be happy and successful, unfortunately, at my own expense and failure. Yeah, you got to make sure that you put yourself at the front of the line from time to time, Alex, as well. Craig, good to have you on the call. Craig's a good mate of mine from New Zealand. I think it's the same, Craig. I allowed myself to control outcomes, and what I do myself, I don't have to comply with everyone else's priorities. Yeah, good message, Craig. Ian, I've learnt that I have more to offer as a manager than I have given myself credit for. And thanks to Vistage. That's a great testimonial there. Thank you. Joy for you. For Ronald there, just hard to keep up here with everybody. With Ronald, what are you? Sean, for you, learnt that I'm more capable than what I believed. Yep. Joy, spending more time with family and friends. Excellent. And Marie, learn to let it go. Perspective is important in all situations. Build personal health and well-being. Planning is important as well. Excellent. So, really, really super. Excellent. I'm glad everyone learnt that. One of the quotes I want to share with you as we do this, as we go through, it comes. I first heard this quote when I got into business almost 30 years ago. And it's resonated with me ever since. And it's just, I love it. It comes from Lee Iacocca, and it said, the speed of the business is the speed of its leaders. And the one question I've got for you is, I honestly believe that speed can be your edge. Speed can be your competitive advantage. Speed can be your gift. And so the question I've got for you is, what would happen in your life? What would happen in your life if you were able to implement faster, if you were able to respond quicker, if you were able to connect with people, if you were able to change rapidly? What would happen in your life if you were able to do these four things, or any one of these four things, faster? I'm not saying doing it flippantly, but what would happen if you had the ability to change faster, to implement quicker, to respond, to connect faster? What would happen in your business? Anybody want to jot a comment into the chat for me? And I'll just put those four areas back up on screen there for a moment. What would happen? What would happen to you? Get a jump on the competition, Dan. Yeah, absolutely. Business would grow. Glenda, business would grow exponentially. Yes, absolutely. Yep, those two things would definitely be benefits from it. Colin, for you, more success. Kim, a multiplier effect. Yes, 100%. There'd be this compounding impact. Great. Raul, for you, would build momentum. Yeah, and one of the things I often say, Raul, to people is momentum defeats doubt. Momentum defeats doubt. People say to me, "Oh, Keith, can you come in and motivate our people?" And I go, "No, I can't do that." I think I don't get me wrong. I think motivation is a really important thing to have personally, but trying to motivate other people. But what you can do is help people create momentum. And from my perspective, I'd take momentum over motivation any day of the week. Why? Because with momentum, if there's a challenge, I can go over it. I can go around it. I can go through it to achieve what I want. And so, really important that you be able to do that. Now, I want to share with you how you create velocity, which gives you that momentum. So let me give you a couple of key elements here to think a little bit about before we jump into really what is it that you need to do to be able to move yourself forward. So there are 6, and let me put these up on screen for you. There are 6 accelerators. Energy is a great accelerator. Energy is a great accelerator. The second, which comes from passion. By the way, the one thing I talk to people about a lot, and I've written 3 books about the concept of becoming and how to become passionate, is that when you have passion, and passion fits into 2 categories, by the way. There are things that you do that generate an income from you. So you go and earn an income so you can go and do the things you love to do, or you go and do the things you love to do that generate an income for you. And the one thing I do know is that, for you, if you own the business, is you probably love it, and that generates an income for you. And it's okay if it's, hey, listen, Keith, this is just an income machine so I can actually go and do the things I love to do, whether it be travel or whatever it might be. So really important, So the one thing I want you to look at when we go through these 6, and if you're following along on the handout, this is in the handout, is which one of these do you need to focus your attention on to generate, to accelerate your velocity, to create that velocity? So let me go back to these for you. Do you need to become better at, with your energy and your passion? Do you need to become better at creating perspective, knowing where you're at, and then moving, and then knowing where you want to go and understanding what the gap is? Is it planning? Is it creating, engineering that plan? Is it execution of the plan? Hey, Keith, we're really good at the plan, but we don't execute, which means if you don't execute, you don't make progress. Is it expertise? Have you got the right people with the right goals doing the right thing at the right time? Or, more importantly, do you rely on people so that you don't have to be the expert on everything? There's a wonderful book written by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy, and it's called Who, Not How. That was a game changer for me in my business in 2025, because all of a sudden I just went, you know what, I just need to find better who's, because who can accelerate my business and my success and my achievement. And the final one here is this one, and this is the end point. Have you got a really clear priorities? Have you got a clear end point? Because the one thing we do know is what's the most productive day of the year. The most productive day of the year is the day before you go on holidays. Why? Because you go to work with a plan that day. You go to work with a list, and somebody knocks on your door and says, "Oh, can I catch up with you today?" And you go, "You're not on my list. I'll talk to you in 3 weeks' time when I get back." And so, of these 6, firstly, do they make sense to you? But of these 6, which one of those 6 do you need to become more masterful at in 2026? of those 6, which ones do you need to become more masterful? Will you type that in the chat box for me if you'd be so kind? Which one of those 6 do you need to become more masterful at? Evaluation, Louise, yep. Just to evaluate what the gap is, that's important. Yep. Anybody else? Thanks. Dan, for you, execution, people, Sam, execution is a lot there. People, execution, yep, good. Wow. Engineering, getting the plan, yeah. All of them, but I'll choose engineering. Thanks, Junard. Engineering, priority there, Darius, yeah, prioritising my progress over execution. Yeah, okay, cool. So this makes sense to you. So all of this has an impact if you have really crystal clear on what the goal is. You understand what's actually driving you. And one of the things that I want to spend just a bit of time on now is understanding that firstly, everybody knew something. Everybody wrote something down. Everybody went, oh, this is easy to answer. Not too many people went there and went, oh, I don't know what he's talking about here. So you know in your heart of hearts what you need to do differently. The question I've now got for you is you have to be driven enough to actually do whatever you wrote down, whether it be creating a plan or executing or prioritising or getting the right people. You have to do that. And the one thing that we do know of all the research that I've done around goal setting is that people, if you want to become committed, compelled and connected to your goal, by the way, why do you need to become committed, compelled and connected to your goal? So that you'll do the uncomfortable, the inconvenient and the unknown. The one thing I want to share with you is on the other side of every goal is abundance. And I'll talk about this in a moment. But what precedes it is something that's uncomfortable, inconvenient and unknown. Otherwise we'd all be Olympians. Otherwise we'd all be gold medalists. And so the reason that we have to be crystal clear on what drives us, we have to understand that, is we have to understand there are 3 elements that make up a great goal that you're committed, compelled and connected to. You have to have an emotional connection, a mental connection and a physical connection. You have to know what is emotionally driving you. And so when we look at these 3 elements, if we look at what it actually is or what it actually looks like, is of the 135 different emotions that you can experience as an adult, 64 of them are positive. Of those 64, they break down to what I call 8 goal drivers. Now, 9 years of research has gone into this one concept. I work with a PhD in statistical analysis and a PhD in psychometric testing, and we built a diagnostic tool called Goal Driver, which Stephanie mentioned before. And of this diagnostic tool, and we'll give you access to it, some of the Vistage members that I've worked with have been using this and using it as part of their goal setting process. What the diagnostic tells us is of the 164, of the 135 different emotions, 64 are positive. Of those 64, they break down into what I call 8 goal drivers. And I want to share those goal drivers with you now. So let me just put this on full screen for you. Juggling a couple of things here. So of the 8 goal drivers, people want to feel successful, people want to feel purposeful, people want to feel inspired, people want to feel happy, people want to feel organised, people want to feel respected, people want to feel confident, and people want to feel relaxed. What does that look like in reality? Well, people, if you want to feel successful, then you really are driven to create momentum. If you want to feel purposeful, you're driven by legacy. If you want to feel inspired, you're driven by making an impact on those people around you, whether it be your community, whether it be your family, whether it be your customers, your team members. You want to make a positive impact. If you're driven If you're if you want to feel happy, you're driven to create and deliver joy. If you want to feel organised, it's about you're driven to control things. If you want to feel respected, you are driven by becoming masterful and being the best at what you do. If you're driven or you want to feel confident, you're driven for self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love. And if you want to feel relaxed, you really are driven to be in flow, or in other words, that you start to help people become things to be effortless around you. So now, in taking that, one thing that we have now done is built a goal-setting formula that includes those three elements. Because the one thing that we do know is that when you want to feel successful or purposeful or respected, that's really the goal. That really becomes the goal. That's what you want to become more of. So let me get you to start to think a little bit about this, and I want to share with you the goal driver or goal, this how formula. Lots of people and lots of people talk about why. And my thinking around this is don't start with why. Don't start with why, start with how. Start with how you want to feel. And when we put this into a formula, the formula looks like this. If you really want a goal that you're truly connected to, compelled to complete, that you have built a relationship with, that there's three key elements. You want to first understand how you want to feel. Secondly, you want to understand what the goal is. So what goal do I need to achieve to feel that emotion? Then you want to understand why is that important to you. And in actual fact, you're going to need 5 reasons why that goal is so important to you. And then you want to then ask the one question that most people don't ask is, who can help me? Most people think they have to do all of it by themselves. But the truth of the matter is you don't have to do it all by yourself. You have to use expertise and people around you to be able to help you accelerate the process. So the formula for people is this, is start with how you want to feel, then work out what goal you want to achieve to feel that emotion. Then understand why is that goal so important to you, because unless you've got 5 reasons why, any excuse will do. Too hot, too cold, too many, too few, too little, too much, too hard, too easy. And then, who can help me? Is it a book? Is it a mentor? Is it a coach? Is it my chair? Who can help me achieve it? If this makes sense to you, can you just type why in the chat box for me? If this makes sense, if this formula, this simple formula makes sense to you, just type why in the chat box for me if you'd be so kind. Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, James. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Vivian. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, David. Appreciate it. Good. Excellent. Super duper. Super duper. Appreciate you doing that. Okay, so here's the next piece of this puzzle. Is let's put this into an actual practical tool. So if you're following along in the handout, this is on page 4 in your handout. If you're just writing this, then take some time. And this time you don't have to write anything in the chat box. I'm just actually going to get you to what's saying to really just follow this process step by step with me, if you'd be so kind. So let me do this. Okay. So here's the first piece of the puzzle. The first thing you have to do is I want you to pick an area of your life. There are 4 key areas you can choose from. I'll put these up on the screen. Personal, professional, physical, profitable. So 4 key areas. So the first thing I want you to do, let's talk about 2026. And the first area I want you to think a little bit about, because I want you to apply this to one area of your life, because once you apply it to one area, you can then go back and do this again and again and again. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to think a little bit about what's the area of your life. Is it a business goal, professional goal? Is it a personal goal? Is it a physical one? That's your health. And profitable, just sticking with all the P's, profitable is around your personal profitability, not necessarily the company profitability, but it can be that too. So I want you to pick one of those areas and write that down on your page. Then the second thing I want you to do now is I want you to pick a goal driver. So I want you to think about that area and I want you to go, okay, how do I want to feel about that area? Let's say you chose professional. And you go, well, how do I want to feel about my professional life this year? Do I want to feel successful? Do I want to feel purposeful? Do I want to feel inspired? Do I want to feel happy? Do I want to feel relaxed? Do I want to feel confident? Do I want to feel respected? Do you want to feel organized? And you think about, take a moment and think a little bit about that. And I want you to write that down. That's going to be the how. So that's step one. Everyone got that written down? It only works if you follow along with me, okay? Don't think, I'll come back and do this later. No, do it now. I'm going to give you time to do it now. We've got time to do it now. So the next piece now is I want you to think about a big, bold goal. I want you to think about a big, bold goal. Phil, good question. Can there be more than one feeling? Yeah, you can have a primary driver and you can have a secondary driver. So good question, Phil. But one of the things I'd say is don't write down 4 or 5. When you do the diagnostic tool, it'll give you an accurate assessment around what is actually really driving you in that area. And you'll always get a primary driver and a secondary driver. So good question. So now, what's the big bold goal? Now, what do I mean by a big bold goal? A big bold goal is a big goal that is a goal so big it defines your year. That it defines your year. So what's the big bold goal that defines your year? I love this quote, comes from Dan Sullivan. To make your present better, make your future bigger. So this is why I'm getting you to write down a big, bold goal. Why? Because it's something that'll push you out of your comfort zone. And it's something that'll have the ability to have an impact on your life. Now, it might not take you all year to achieve it, but I want you to make sure that you've got a big, bold goal. Now, let's get you to write this big, bold goal down. And I want you to think a little bit about, okay, what's the goal? What's the big, bold goal you want to achieve? And the thing I want to make sure that you do with this as well is make sure it's detailed. See, people write down vague goals. What does that look like? I think I want to achieve something. People write down fuzzy goals, fluffy goals. What's that? Oh, it could be this or it could be that. People even write down specific goals. I want to achieve X amount of money. We want to have X amount of customers with our average sale at this, with the average profitability at this, and through, and so they're pretty specific. But really what I want you to be is to be really detailed. And why do you need to be detailed? In being detailed, you and really specific about it. By being detailed and really specific about it, you start to build a story. And you start to build a story that you tell yourself, because the first sale is always to yourself. And so this is so important that you understand that you're really talking yourself into it. You're building your belief that you can do this. So take a moment now and start to build a really detailed story or a couple of paragraphs around what this goal is. So let's just take a health and fitness goal for a moment. You go, some people might say, I want to lose 10 kilos. That's my goal. Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty specific. But what you really need to have there is, I want to lose 10 kilos by this date with my body mass index at this, and I will have achieved that by exercising 5 days a week for a minimum of 20 minutes to an hour. And I'm going to change my diet to be eating more of this and less of that. And you start to paint a picture and you build a story around it. Because until you get that emotional connection to your goal, any excuse will do. And that's what's so important, to do that. And then what you need to do then is to really ask yourself this: what are the 5 reasons why this goal is so important to me? And if you can't write down 5 reasons why, any excuse will do. But if you can't find 5 reasons why, what tends to happen is it's just not important enough to you. Makes sense? If you don't think of really why you want to do it, it's not the right goal for you. Well, you have to think deeper about it. If you truly want it to be a big, bold goal, something that you're committed to, something that you're not interested in. And then the last piece, number 4, is around who can assist you to achieve that goal. Who can assist you? Who's going to be a who that can assist you to achieve that goal? And I believe there are 4 who's. There are people that you can watch. Maybe it's when I first started doing virtual, I did a lot of watching of other presenters, how they, or people cooking shows. How do they do it? How do they make virtual work? It could be somebody you're listening to. It could be a podcast or an audio book. It could be something you're reading. It could be a book that you're reading. Or it could be a mentor. And that's the great part about Vistage, is that you get this ability to connect and work with like-minded people. You get this ability but so I want you to write down not these 4, but I want you to write down people's names or book names. Who is it that you could lean on, that you could learn from, that you could be inspired by, that can have an impact on you, that'll help you implement moving forward? Who's a who for you? Now, what I find with people is they're not prepared to humble themselves enough. My business has grown and I've remained relevant in this industry now for almost 30 years. And people say, how's that happen? Really simple. I've always got a mentor. I have a personal mentor, I have a professional mentor. I belong to a forum group, which means some colleagues, very similar to a Vistage setup, where you've got like-minded people in a room from different backgrounds that can give you different insights about yourself. And I'm reading every day. I've made a conscious decision over the last month not to look at Instagram, not look at Facebook, and just to read things that are going to lift me up and help me become better as a business person, as a husband, as a father, as a friend. And so that's why, understanding what it is that's driving you is really just so very important. So here's what is, who is a who for you? You don't need to tell me the goal, you don't need to tell me the emotion, you don't need to tell me the reason why, but I'd love you to jot in the chat, who's a who for you? And if it's not, if you don't want to share that, then tell me, what this approach to goal setting, what's that done for you, just going through, what's been the value of going through this goal setting approach with me now? Your Vistage chair? Yep, thanks Sandy for repeating the question. Lee, for you, your Vistage chair? Yep, good. Anyway, who else is a who for you? Vistage chair? I think this is going to be probably the that most of the answers. Your Vistage mentor, wonderful Glenda, wonderful Dan. Vistage members, yeah, thanks Lee. Your other like-minded colleagues in the room, yeah. Vistage chair and a few members within it, yep, good. Here's what I'd like you to answer for me as well is this approach to goal setting, what's that done for you? What's been the value or the benefit of just me walking you through those very simple 4 steps? Stephen Covey for you, yeah, great book there, Darius, yep. Value, forcing rounding out thinking by 5 reasons. Yes, absolutely. The true validation. Yep, good. Lee for you as well. Focus. Jerry helps to be more specific. Get clarity on purpose. David for you. I like starting with the feeling. Yep, good. Thank you, Sally. Solid refresh on goal setting strategy. Thanks, JP. Providing a process to follow makes it easier. Yep, and holds you more accountable, Tom, and highlights the importance of why you are doing it. Yep, absolutely. Here's the other real beautiful thing about this process. You could teach this to your people. I mean, you could show them this video, obviously, but you could teach this to your... Why? Because it's 4 things. Hey, Larry, tell me how do you want to, tell me how you want to feel about your role this year. Oh, I want to feel successful. Great. What's the one thing you believe you need to achieve for you to have a successful year in your role? Oh, I need to accomplish ABC. I need to bring on this type of customer. I need to get this systems. Correct. Wonderful. Why is that important to you? Because if I do that, I think that'll just elevate my position or profile in the business, or help me to understand the business more. Great. Who can help you? Do you understand? It's a very simple process that you can use in a coaching conversation with one of your team members. Does that make sense to you? All right. Now let me talk about the probability of you achieving this goal. What's the probability of you achieving this goal moving forward? So, let me share a couple of slides with you. If we want to leverage the probability of you achieving your goal, there's 6 elements that you need to put in place. The first is, we know that if you have your goal written down, you are 10% more likely to achieve it. So if you followed the process with me and you've written down your goal, congratulations, 10%, you're going to achieve it. If you are consciously focused on your goal, it goes up to 20%. So what do I mean by consciously focused on it? You read it on a regular basis. Every day, every other day, you read it. It jumps up to 40% if you have a specific date for achievement. Remember what I said earlier in this presentation? We work best to deadlines. It jumps up to 50% if you have a plan on how to achieve it. So if you've got a plan on how to achieve it, it jumps up to 50%. It jumps up to 60% if you commit to someone. So if you commit this to someone in your Vistage group, you will find that it jumps up to 60%. However, it jumps all the way up to 95% if you set an accountability appointment with someone that you turn up on a regular basis and they ask you the question, how's that goal going? It jumps up to 95%. When you combine all of those elements together, your probability of you achieving that goal is through the roof. Not because of talent. Everything I just did with you then is about this. Let me get myself another page here. Is about this. TNT. What do I mean by that? Everything I just said, it takes no talent to achieve it. It's not saying to you, I've got to be so much smarter, I've got to be so much better educated. No, those elements we just spoke about takes no talent. And when you can combine that, you accelerate your success. Makes sense to you? As we head down the home track here, I know I want to really sort of talk a little bit about how you strengthen your determination. What is it that you need to do to be able to achieve what's important, what matters, and what's going to make a difference to you. I love this quote from Sir Edmund Hillary. He said, "It's not the mountain we conquer, but ourselves." You have to get out of your own way. And there's three key elements that we need to master to strengthen our determination. You have to have a momentum mindset. You have to have monofocus. And you have to make sure that you have micro wins. And so let me talk a little bit about what those three elements really mean to you moving forward. So, the first is a momentum mindset. What you want to think a little bit about is, what mindset do you need to have to be able to achieve what's important to you, what matters to you, and what's going to make a difference to you? What's that mindset you need? Now, I believe there are 6 mindsets for you to be able to achieve your goals. You don't need all of them, but you need to have a focus on at least one of them. What would happen in your life, what would happen in your business if you were more tenacious? My superpower is that I am tenacious. I hang in there. I'm not talented, I'm just tenacious. I just turn up and keep on turning up. And here's what I mean by that. I believe that tenacity wins every race. I don't have to cross the finish line first. I just have to cross the finish line. My best tenacity story is I stayed in touch with a client for 16 years before they said yes. Now, they never said no, get lost, never talk to me again. They never said anything like that. They just said, no, not this year. No, we're using someone from overseas. No, we're using somebody internally. No, you're not the right fit. And 16 years of no. And I always said to them, can I stay in touch with you? Can I connect with you a couple of times a year and update you with my material or topics? Or anyway, in the 16th year, they contacted me and said, are you available to speak at a conference in Brisbane, 1,500 people? And I said, yeah, looked at my schedule, I was available. And this year in March, I will complete my 55th conference with them over the last 10 years. And all because I was tenacious. So what mindset do you need to have over the next 30 days? Is it tenacity? Is it courage? You have to be courageous to change. Is it self-love? You have to be your best friend, your best coach, not your worst enemy. Is it limitless? Is it starting to become more empowered, not wishing or waiting for someone to give you permission? Is it that you need to become a lot more grateful? I have to tell you, last year was a year for me that, there were some things that just didn't go right in my business. And I got pissed off, and that's okay to do that. But I always think you have to, it's the two things that you can control is how you react and how you respond. So the reaction was I got pissed off. How I responded is I found the gratitude in it. How many people on this call know people that are still bitter and twisted about something that happened 10 years ago, and they just haven't found the gratitude in it? Because gratitude is a two-sided coin. One is appreciation and the other is application. As soon as you apply gratitude to something that hasn't worked, you learn from it and you move on from it. I'm not talking about forgiveness now, but you learn from it and you move on from it. And until you can learn from it, you never move on from it. And it's the one thing that'll always hold you back. So of those six elements, which one of those do you need to become focused on, at least for the next 30 days? Which one of those do you need to do that? Thanks, Glenda. Wonderful. Yep. Tenacious for you, Glenda. Craig, for you, tenacious. Chris, tenacity. Yep, good. I know I belted on about tenacity there. Empowered, limitless. Yeah, JP, I didn't talk enough about this, but limitless is about you believe you have limitless opportunities and you have limitless energy to take advantage of it. So that's really important. Good, excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Shirley. Thanks, Vivian. Yeah, tenacity. Katrina, limitless. Yep, cool. The next piece that I wanted to talk a little bit about is around monofocus. I love the quote, and the reason why I love this quote is I thought of it is you got to starve your distractions and feed your focus. There'll be more distractions this year than there were last year. But you got to starve your distractions and feed your focus, because if you don't starve your distractions to feed your focus, then what you tend to do is you feed your distractions and starve your focus. I just felt that, I've got nothing against Instagram or anything like that. I just felt that late last year, and I was just scrolling a lot. And all of a sudden it was like, geez, that half an hour gone already? And I went, okay, if that's a distraction, then I have to starve that distraction and feed my focus. So instead of looking at that, I jump on my Kindle and on my phone or on my iPad and I read that. And I've always got a book with me. So, just think a little bit about what it is that you need to do to be able to move yourself forward. So what's the one thing you need to let go of? You don't need to share it or just write it down, but what's that one thing you need to let go of? And what's the one thing you need to focus on? And maybe that might change. For me, every day I start with threes. And what I mean by that is I just go, what are my three priorities for today? What are the three for the week? What are the three for the month? And what are three for the quarter? And I just work threes. Now, you know what? I got more than three things to accomplish today, but my belief is that unless I do the first three, the other 20 don't make any, because this is about being in a corridor of clarity, not a chasm of confusion. So understand what it is that you need to focus on. And the last one there around micro wins are around habits. Your success comes down to having great habits that you do consistently, daily, every other day, that just work. For me, this is a habit for me. This is a 5 to 6 to 7 day a week habit. That is, I always know what my three are for the day. I always plan the three for the week. Every month I plan the three for the next month, and every quarter I plan the three for the next quarter. And they're just habits. Exercise is a habit for me. I was saying to Stephanie and Sandy before, I've just moved house. I'm a little out of my routine. I'm out of my regular studio, but I know that they're strong habits. The other is reading, and I love that quote from John Maxwell: "Leaders are readers." And the one thing I want to do, and Stephanie and Sandy gave me permission to do this, is at the end of February, 25th of February, I have a new book coming out, which is called Unstoppable Velocity. And it'll be my sixth book that I've written. It's with Wiley, and it's available as a pre-purchase on Amazon. Let me just put it up on screen for you. And if this is something that if you want to, and you just grab your phone if you can do that for me. If you'd like to pre-purchase this book, it'll be sent to you through Amazon. The upside of it is that it's got most of the content and a lot more that I've talked about and shared with you today. It's 25% off as a pre-launch deal. It'll then jump back up to $35 after that. So you get it at a discounted rate, and I think there's some free shipping involved there as well. I just double check that with Amazon. I'll put a larger QR code up. But if you'd like to support me and get that book, you're most welcome to. Is there an audio book coming? James, that's a really great question. I'm still in negotiation with Wiley to see if there is if they're going to do an audio version of the book. So that's in the process of coming through as well. And look, if you'd like that, you're most welcome to purchase that, and Amazon will send it to you. A couple other things just to share as I finish up here today. The one question, and I'd love you to type this in the ordered. Thank you, JP. Fantastic. My newest goal, thank you, Ian, is to read that book in full by the end of March. I love that, Ian, as well. Thank you. I appreciate that. Ordered. Thanks, Kenneth. I appreciate that. Oh wow. Thank you. I'm touched by that. Thanks. Ordered. Surely. Gee whiz. Okay. Let me just finish things up for you. And I love everybody to jump in the chat if you'd be so kind. I'd love you to jump in the chat for me. And what's been the value of this session? What's been the value of this session for you? What's been the value of this session? Ordered. Thanks, Craig. Are we getting signed copies? That's a really good question. I don't think they'll be signed because they're coming straight from Wiley to there. Look, send me an email and I'll do something for you. I don't know what I'll do for you, but I'll do something for you just as a thank you. If I sound like I'm on the hop with this, 100% I am on the hop with this. That's a very good question. I didn't even think about signing them. Jolt of focus. Okay, Dan. Jolt of focus after a long holiday. Good. Thanks for today. Huge inspiration. I'm just going to read some of these. Value, great frameworks. P.S. Oh, okay, I can't even keep up. Motivated to get me back into thinking my goals this year. Andrew, for you. Thanks, Keith. Great way to kick off the year. Woo, woo, woo. Okay, so lots of things happening. Let me give you my final message today. A good friend of mine had a chance to interview Edmund Hillary before he passed away, and he asked him the question, what was it like when you got to Everest? And if you know the story of Edmund Hillary, he was never expected to climb Everest. He was in the second support team. But when the first team was turned back, the expedition leader came to him and said, you're up. And he'd done all the training and he'd done all the work and he was prepared and ready. And my friend said to him, he said, what were you thinking? And to my friend's surprise, he answered this way. He said he thought it was too high, he thought it was too cold, and he thought it was too bloody hard. And my mate said, what'd you do? And he said, simple, I just put one foot after the other. If you want to achieve any of your goals in 2026, just take the first step. Hats off to everyone who purchased the book so quickly. I'm grateful and humbled by you doing this, and I love the opportunity to hang out with you today with Vistage. You belong to a wonderful organisation of like-minded people who've got their hearts and heads in the right space. So thanks very much for the opportunity. I'll hand it back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Keith. Wow, what a practical and engaging and really inspiring session, and a great way to kick off our summer series and 2026. Keith, I just love the way you managed a virtual session with the chat. You really had our fantastic participants in it with you. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you all for joining us today. And our next session is on the 23rd of January with Todd Musselman, who is a US speaker. And he's talking about a victim versus an ownership mindset. So that'll be very interesting. So that's on the 23rd, which is tomorrow week, Friday week. So thank you again, Keith. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And Happy New Year and all the best. Bye-bye.